Diffusion. Diffusion is the net passive movement of particles, atoms, ions or molecules, from a region in which they are in higher concentration to regions of lower concentration. It continues until the concentration of substances is uniform throughout. Examples of diffusion: gas exchange at the alveoli, oxygen from air to blood, carbon dioxide from blood to air. Gas exchange for photosynthesis, carbon dioxide from air to leaf, oxygen from leaf to air. Gas exchange for respiration, oxygen from blood to tissue cells, carbon dioxide in opposite direction. Osmosis, diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane. High diffusion rate. Short distance. Large surface area. Big concentration difference, Fick's law. High temperatures increase diffusion, large molecules slow diffusion. Simple diffusion. It is the passive flow of a solute from a higher to a lower concentration, due to random thermal movement. Facilitated diffusion. It is passive transport of a solute from a higher to a lower concentration mediated by a specific protein transporter. Active transport. It is transport of a solute across a membrane against a concentration gradient, and thus requires energy, frequently derived from the hydrolysis of ATP. A specific transporter, pump, is involved. Some solutes such as gases can enter the cell by diffusing down an electrochemical gradient across the membrane, and do not require metabolic energy. The simple diffusion of a solute across the membrane is limited by the thermal agitation of that specific molecule, by the concentration gradient across the membrane, by the solubility of that solute, the permeability coefficient, in the hydrophobic core of the membrane bilayer. Solubility is inversely proportionate to the number of hydrogen bonds that must be broken in order for a solute in the external aqueous phase to become incorporated in the hydrophobic bilayer. Electrolytes, poorly soluble in lipid, do not form hydrogen bonds with water, but they do acquire a shell of water from hydration by electrostatic interaction. The size of the shell is directly proportionate to the charge density of the electrolyte. Electrolytes with a large charge density have a larger shell of hydration and thus a slower diffusion rate. Na+, for example, has a higher charge density than K+. Hydrated Na and is therefore larger than hydrated K+, hence, the latter tends to move more easily through the membrane. The following factors affect net diffusion of a substance: its concentration gradient across the membrane. Solutes move from high to low concentration. 2. The electrical potential across the membrane. Solutes move toward the solution that has the opposite charge. The inside of the cell usually has a negative charge. 3. The permeability coefficient of the substance for the membrane. 4. The hydrostatic pressure gradient across the membrane. Increased pressure will increase the rate and force of the collision between the molecules and the membrane. 5. Temperature. Increased temperature will increase particle motion and thus increase the frequency of collisions between external particles and the membrane. Facilitated diffusion involves either certain transporters or ion channels. Other transporters, mostly ATP-driven, are involved in active transport. A multitude of transporters and channels exist in biological membranes that route the entry of ions into and out of cells.